So members of the media, Ashley and I will bring down the mics to you. 2 questions for reporters. We'll kick it off into mine. Go ahead.
All right, thanks, Caesar. Hi, Mayor.
Hey there, how are you?
I guess let's talk about the casino. It seems like the older people can't agree. What's next in this process, and are you concerned this might become like the ward map fight again?
No, I don't think so. Look, the thing that people have to keep in mind is 30 years of futility, right? We started trying to get a casino early during the tenure of Rich Daley. We finally were able to get it done because the circumstances were right. And the pension resources are going to help support our severely underfunded police and fire pensions. So we must, and I'm confident we will, get this over the finish line. Obviously, it's Chicago. There's a variety of opinions on everything under the sun. The casino is no different. But I think that we've been working well with Chairman Tunney and Vice Chair Jason Irvin, who are leading the initiative on behalf of the City Council, following their steer on what other information they and their colleagues are going to need to be positioned to make a decision. But I think we're making significant progress.
Do you still want this wrapped up by this summer?
Oh yeah, for sure. Look, after we finish our work, we present a candidate to the Illinois Gaming Board, and that's going to be a process itself. Now, all 3 of these companies have been vetted by gaming boards, whether here in Illinois or in other jurisdictions, so we don't foresee any issues, but their process is their process. And I'm anxious to make sure that we get somebody licensed and start a temporary casino and start revenues flowing into our city. But I feel very confident that we'll get it over the threshold.
Thanks, Mayor. Dana, CBS.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi there, how are you?
I'm fine. I have a couple gas card questions. The first is, how can the city, or how is the city paying for it, and is this something taxpayers can afford? Question 1.
Yes, we wouldn't do anything that we didn't think that we could pay for. This is coming out of our corporate dollars, and we believe that this is the right thing to do, given the fact that gas prices have skyrocketed. They haven't come down yet. And this, as we know, every summer the prices go up even more. So that's why we're rolling this out in increments over the course of the summer to continue to give people relief.
Considering mayoral candidate Willie Wilson continues to give away gas, and some criticize him of trying to influence voters, you have not yet announced whether you're going to run, but what would you say to some cynics who might say or believe that this is a ploy to also influence voters?
I would just point them to the $6 per gallon for regular that people are experiencing all over the city. The fact of the matter is gas prices have skyrocketed, and for working families in particular, working individuals, I've heard it everywhere I go that people are really trying to ration their budgets because they can't afford to fill up their gas tank. There's an urgent need, and we're being responsive to the needs that we see across the city.
Brett Pratt, Tribune.
Thank you, Mayor. Does that apply to what Willie is doing as well? The idea that he's just trying to meet a need and it's not a political thing?
I'm not going to speak for him. You should ask him that question yourself.
And then what's the latest on the gang asset ordinance?
We are working to educate and communicate with folks across the city who have concerns about it.
I mean, you've talked about it with urgency. You know, it's been since September. Is this coming up in May? Is it coming up in June?
As I said, we're continuing to talk to people across the city about the issues and concerns that they see.
Thanks, Mayor. Heather, WTTW.
Hi, Mayor. More than 1,500 officers have received an exemption from the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine, a rate that is almost double the rate of any other city department. Was granting these exemptions a way to prevent having to fire hundreds, if not thousands, of officers at a time when crime, as you said in your speech today, remains a major concern?
Well, I'm not sure that number is correct. And as you know, CPD is one of the largest departments in the city, if not the largest, so the numbers would be let me finish. The numbers would be, whatever the numbers are, they're going to be in proportion to the size of the department itself. But I'm not sure that that number matches up with what my latest information is, but we can certainly verify that for you.
So 11.5% of the department has received an exemption from the vaccine. The next closest department to receive vaccine was the fire department, which is 5.5%.
Okay.
So I'm comparing proportionally to not compare apples to apples. So again,
Well, the fire and police, obviously, their unions have fought very hard against the vaccine. I'm not aware of, and I obviously am not involved in the decisions about exemptions. There are two categories, either religious or medical. Those decisions are being made by the Department of Human Resources. And again, our goal is to make sure that we've got a fully vaccinated workforce, because that's the best way that we know, based upon public health data, that we can maximize the protections in the workforce. Those are how the decisions are being made. They're calling balls and strikes.
when you announced the vaccine mandate back in August, you said it was a question of legitimacy for the police department, that they would agree to follow this order and to protect the people of Chicago from infecting them with COVID-19. With that number of officers who have received an exemption from the vaccine, what do you say to Chicagoans who are concerned that they might be exposed to somebody who is unvaccinated and potentially transmitting COVID-19?
Well, I've talked about this issue at length. And I just said, and I'll repeat it again, it's important for us to maximize safety in a workplace, particularly with first responders who are going out and treating people, EMTs, but also police officers. I believe that they should be vaccinated. But if they, as the law requires, if they've got a legitimate medical exemption or legitimate religious exemption, they're entitled to that under the law. But the vast majority of our police, fire, and all of our city employees are vaccinated and have complied with the vaccine mandate, and that's important.
All right, moving on to William.
Thank you. Mayor Lightfoot, every time you have a press conference, you say crime is down. The economy is booming.
Well, that's not true, but get your question, sir.
Across the street, we had a police officer on duty, the victim of a hit and run. We have Michigan Avenue, the magnificent miles now referred to as the Mile of Fear. The water tower place has thrown the keys back to the lender. They say they don't want to be in Chicago anymore. Real Chicagoans are asking me, how could you possibly even consider running for re-election as mayor of the city of Chicago after all the harm you've caused?
Well, I disagree with you fundamentally. And I don't think I need to address any and dignify your comments 1 second further. Next question.
I have a follow-up question regarding the mayor's race. You have a few possible challengers. Cam Buckner just got charged or possibly convicted of his second DUI. You have John Catanzaro, who couldn't even hold on to his own police badge. You have, my God, who else? Willie Wilson, who endorsed you when you ran. You have...
Do you have a question, sir?
Yes, Ray Lopez, who says he's going to make history as the first gay Hispanic. Of all of these challengers, who do you see as your greatest challenge?
I am not focused on any of the other people who are saying that they're going to run for mayor. What I'm focused on a day-to-day basis is doing my job, doing the job that people elected me to do.
Rufus Williams, WVON.
Thank you, Mayor. It is a quintessential issue at this time of year. So the people on the west side and south side are asking about potholes and what can be done, particularly dealing with those there, because the suggestion is that they're better taken care of on the north side than they are on the south and west side of Chicago.
Well, I've worked very diligently since I became mayor that those disparities don't exist. And the people across city government, all my city commissioners on down, understand that it's a new day in Chicago, that we must treat all of our residents with respect, with fairness, and that certainly comes when it comes to the resources that are allocated across our neighborhoods. It is spring, it's pothole season, it happens every year in Chicago. So our crews are out there, they're working diligently, and what I would say is if people are seeing a particular problem in their neighborhood, call 311 because that is the best way to make sure that we're on it in a timely fashion. Obviously, if they're not, then contact me directly. Lori.Lightfoot at cityofchicago.org. Lori.Lightfoot at cityofchicago.org. But it is the spring season. This is what we know and how we respond every season after a tough winter. We are making sure that our roads and bridges and alleys are up to speed. That's why we passed a $5 billion capital improvement plan, far beyond what the federal government was able to do. And the season is starting. It's already started, and we're out there, and our crews are doing their thing all across the city.
Michael Romaine, Austin Weekly.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi there, how are you?
Good. Next week, April 25th, the applications for the Chicago Resilient Communities Fund cash program will open up.
Yes.
Do you have any idea of the organization that's going to administer the grant? I know there was an RFP process that
There was
out.
an administrator that was chosen, and I don't have the name off the top of my head, but we can get that information to you. But the goal is to make sure that we are using all of our channels, obviously through our social media platforms, through the media, but also on the ground in neighborhoods to make sure that we get the word out. We want to make sure that those Chicago residents that are in need take advantage of this program.
you see this as a more permanent aspect of city government?
Well,
Because I
right-
know it's just for this budget, but do you consider this being a little bit more expansive, especially if you're reelected?
Well, I think we need to take it step by step. Obviously, we have the resources as a result of the American Rescue Plan to be able to fund what will be the largest program of its kind in the country. We're doing everything that we can to reach the people that are in need, but also to make sure through intensive case management that those folks are in a better financial footing at the end of the one-year pilot program than when they began. So that's really important. We don't want to just give cash out the door. We want to make sure that we're understanding how it is that folks are struggling and what we can do, what our partners can do, both in the nonprofit world but also in the business community, to help those families that are in need. So at the end of the program, they're in a better financial footing than they were when they started.
Thanks, Mayor. Craig Wall, ABC 7.
Hello, Mayor.
Hello.
It would seem, based on the way you teased the audience and how you talked about an announcement that you didn't give, that this very much was a precursor to a re-election announcement. Is that what this was today?
This was a Chicago is doing very well from an economic standpoint speech. I think I gave all the data points that talked about the fact that 2021 was a phenomenal year for us economically, and frankly, wanted to share that with this crowd because that message isn't breaking through other channels, and it was important for us to reclaim our own narrative around the things that make us a very good, great global city. People need to know that. If you saw from when I asked people to raise their hand about their knowledge of the many, I think, impressive economic milestones that we were able to accomplish in 2021, very few people in that room knew it. So it's really important for me as the mayor, as the advocate in chief for our city, to preach the gospel about what is going well in our city so we can be proud of the things that we're accomplishing. Our businesses are doing phenomenally well. They're creating jobs, they're giving hope, and they're going into areas of our city that haven't seen the kind of investment that they deserve. And I need to champion that, which is why I came here today to make the announcements that we did.
Going back to casinos, obviously you've heard there's pushback from two of the three aldermen whose wards could have a proposed one. Walter Burnett sort of waffling, says he's still listening. But we're hearing that, virtually every place doesn't really want this casino. How will you overcome that, and how will you balance the community concerns with the need for a Chicago casino?
Well, look, I think it's important for not only us, but for the operators to understand the environment into which they are would be coming, for them to hear and frankly respond to the community concerns. Whenever you cite a big project like this, there's always a level of NIMBYism that happens. There are people who say, great, but do it someplace else. This has got to be a decision that's made for the future of our city and not specific to a particular neighborhood. We need to take those neighborhood considerations in mind to be sure, but this is something that's going to benefit the entire city. As I mentioned in response to an earlier question, the monies that are coming from this casino are intended to shore up our police and fire pensions. So one of the questions that folks have to ask who are saying, no, not my neighborhood, would you rather that your taxes go up? Because that's, in a municipality, we have very few tools to use to shore up police pensions, labor pensions, municipal pensions, other than raising property taxes. Nobody wants to do that, least of all me. This is another revenue stream that will generate substantial revenues to support those pensions so that we don't have to go to the taxpayers. So I want to make sure that that doesn't get lost in the shuffle around all the other issues that are arising. Fundamentally, this is about economic development and making sure that we've got a revenue stream to shore up our police and fire pensions, which is why you saw, I think, at some of these town halls, the head of the firefighters union come up and say, we support this because this is about making sure that our members' pensions are secure for the future.
Mary Ann Ahern, NBC.
Thank you, Mayor. The Sun-Times is reporting that Rosa Escarino would like to keep her post as head of the Park District. Is that possible?
Anything's possible. Rosa, I think, has done a tremendous job. And I think that she has demonstrated both to relevant stakeholders across the city that care a tremendous amount about the parks, and also to the board that she's a serious person, that she's gone into a very difficult set of circumstances and really, I think, done a yeoman's job in starting the process of righting the ship at the Chicago Park District. The fact that the Park District isn't in the news on a daily basis, as it was not that long ago, I think is a great testament to Rose and her team, and we'll see how things proceed.
And probably to be the third or fourth person to ask you this, but is soon next week or is it next month? What is your timetable when you say soon? And how much will your own polling make a difference in that decision?
Well, what I will say is this. I think that we have done a very good job under very daunting odds. I have said this before. I will challenge you to find another mayor who has had to address the kind of challenges that I have in the last 3 years. And I don't think you're going to find it because it's this unprecedented set of challenges: a pandemic, historic economic meltdown, civic unrest, spiking violence that we've seen all across the city, really all happening within about a 6-month time period, and then having to continue to keep people confident and hopeful and safe from the pandemic, safe from violence. All of these things compressed in an incredible time period. There was no honeymoon period for me coming in as mayor. And so I feel very confident about the things that we've been able to do, the kind of climate that we have set. You know, many of you say, oh, the mayor doesn't get along with people and this and that. Well, look at the results. Look at the results and report on that, you folks who like to write about the challenges and how the powers of the incumbency won't benefit this mayor. What I would say to you is we get stuff done. And we get stuff done because we build relationships and partnerships that enable us to do that. Whether it's passing a budget to close not one but 2 historic budget deficits, whether it's coming out of the pandemic and forging a plan forward that people all over the country are calling us about and saying how you did that, whether it's forging, I think, the most equitable and inclusive vaccine distribution plan in the country. The list goes on, and you heard some of that today, and I hope you'll actually report on some of the things that show Chicago is well poised for the future. So I feel very confident about where we are and where we're going to be. And like any good gardener, when you plant the seeds, you till the soil, you watch the shoots rise up from the garden, you want to be there to reap the harvest. So soon is soon.
Thank you, Mayor. We're going all the way to the back with Mallory from WLS.
I see you back there. How are you? But speak up a little bit so I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
It's okay.
Testing.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
I had a question about the $200 million that were budget. What can Chicagoans, and is there something Chicagoans can look forward to that surplus for next year for the budget?
Well, as I said, my CFO won't let me tell you that there's going to be a surplus for next year. I think what it says is our economy is doing very, very well. Our revenues are coming in at better than expected levels based upon the reconciliation that we did of the numbers. It usually comes in at the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter. And conservatively, it looks like we're $200 million above where we had projected to be, which is a very good thing and good news for our taxpayers. Now, we've got to see what the numbers actually turn out to be. And I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but we've done the hard work. We have looked for structural solutions, not one-time solutions. Our CFO and the budget director have done a yeoman's job in making sure that we've remained focused and diligent on doing the right thing, making the tough calls, and the result is what you're seeing. But the result is also, I've got to give credit where credit's due, our business community is knocking it out of the park. I mean, many of the businesses that were not directly affected by the pandemic had record years in manufacturing, in construction, life sciences, technology, food and ag, the list goes on and on. There's a reason why we minted 12 new unicorns last year. There's a reason why we've seen $9 billion in investments in our city, because we got the bones and the strength of the most diverse economy in the country, and investors and businesses see that and are making the pro-Chicago choices and bets. So this all on years to the good, and means that we are seeing better than expected revenue projections, and that's a good thing for our taxpayers.
Talking about re-election and some of the challengers that are looking to run against you for 2023, crime is a big issue and constantly being brought up. Do you have a strategy for combating that right out of the gate for when you announce your re-election, or are you going to let them devour each other before you do?
Well, interesting set of choices. Look, dealing with public safety should never be a political issue, and it's not for me. People feel scared in our city. They don't feel safe. In neighborhoods all over the city and in neighborhoods where folks may not have felt that, like folks on the west side and the south side. It's a thing that we must focus on, and we do every single day. And I've said this before. We started planning for this coming summer last year, as we must. We looked ourselves in the eye and held ourselves accountable for what worked, but also importantly, what didn't work. And the reason I think we're seeing the trend in the right direction, again, it's really early in the year. And we've got to get through the summer before we'll know much of anything about whether or not the work that we put in already is actually going to bear fruit in better outcomes for our residents. But the reason for that is the level of accountability, the level of scrutiny, the level of transparency that we have imposed upon ourselves, as well as our partnerships with people in those 15 communities that are the hardest hit by violence. There's a reason we're going out into those communities, engaging with stakeholders, but also empowering residents, from cleaning up vacant lots to block clubs to cameras. The list goes on and on. Those are all the things that we've heard from residents that they feel like they need in order to feel safe. And the next frontier, frankly, is making sure that we're doing more on juvenile offenders. We've seen an explosion in a number of young people that are involved in criminal activity. And we can't wait for the courts to do their job. We've got to step up and do that ourselves. So we have been in concert with members of the faith community, members of social clubs and other organizations that are specifically focused on youth, because we've got to reach those kids and turn them in a different direction before they take some kind of rash action that changes the trajectory of their lives and victims' lives forever. So that is another set of hard work that must be done, is reaching our young people and turning them around on a path to more productive, more positive experiences than life on the street. That is a dead end for them, and we know that, but it's also dead end for our city if we don't do more and step up to help those young people. Every young person has a myriad of touch points in their lives where some adult can make a difference, some positive experience for them. We've got to make sure we exploit those opportunities so that our young people have the support and love and accountability that they need to lead better lives.
Thanks a lot, Mayor. That's a wrap. Have a great day,
Thank
everyone.
you, everyone.